had thought about doing this video for quite some time, but the reason I hadn't done it yet is because I didn't have what I considered accurate information on this bird, and that is the Chinese painted quail, or the button quail. The button quail got its name in the 1940s when American soldiers had saw them in England. They actually originated in China. They were found in the rice paddies. They are a ground-dwelling bird. They do not perch. They do not roost. They like to stay around water sources. So if you do end up raising these birds, you have to make sure you keep constant clean water because they are super needy when it comes to water. If they go more than 24 hours without it, they will die. You know, I came across the button quail by complete and total accident. As you guys know, or a lot of you guys know, in July we were forced to remove our chickens from the property, and so my cousin took most of them, but my friend had these two button quail that she no longer wanted. She got them and just changed her mind and decided that she just had too much else going on, too much on her plate. So she offered to give me the two button quail. It's a breeding pair in exchange for Trinket, my little Baney hen. So I agreed and I took them, and I knew zero about them. I was like, what do I feed them? I can't kill these things. So that's when I learned you feed them like game bird food. It has to have a protein count of 24% or higher. So that's what you feed them. That's what you feed them. And I got them, and I have a little small rabbit cage that I had kept Frosty, our rabbit, in. I'm really close to him so you can hear them. And the more I talk, the more they'll chatter. It's just a small rabbit cage, and it makes the perfect home for a duo. The reason why is they only need 1 square foot of space per bird. So they have very minimal foot space that they're actually going to need. Like I said, they are ground dwelling birds, so you have to make sure you have good bedding. Pine bedding is perfect. They cannot have large water dishes. They will drown. Like, they are tiny. A full grown button quail is the same size as a newborn hatched chicken chick. Like, they're little. And, you know, I had to get rid of the chickens, and I got these. And at first, the whole reason I got them, I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll trade you, whatever. I wanted Trinky to be able to go out and live her life with these little Baney chickens. And so she would be, I felt like she'd be happy with that. And, you know, I got them, and I thought, I'll just keep them, and then I'll sell them or trade them for the Turnix quail or something like that. You know, I'll figure out something what to do with them. And then I got them, and they, number one, they are an absolute joy. I love the sounds that they make. I've heard 3 different sounds. I've heard that there's more sounds that they do make, but I've only heard 3. One is a whistling sound when they call to one another. One of them is a sound that only a male will make. It's a growl, is what they describe it as, but it sounds more like an airplane taking off. It's just really quiet. And then the third sound would sound like somebody is laughing. My husband actually, when they'll do it, he'll say, well, the quail think it's funny, because they'll just, ha, ha, ha. You can hear them. It's cute. But they're not overly loud, number one. Number two, I like the fact that I can keep these in the house and they don't smell. I mean, I used to breed parakeets when I was a teenager, and my parakeets, my little budgies, they smell way worse than these guys. So if you can tolerate a parakeet, you can tolerate these guys. All in all, I really felt like this ended up being a blessing, because as a homesteader, when somebody says, you know, you have to take away your animals, you don't get animals, then what do you become, a gardener? Because really that's kind of how it felt. I was like, I'm just a gardener now. Like, I don't have any animals on my homestead. And I got super depressed for a little bit. But that's when I realized that these quail might actually be the answer to that. They do not have enough meat or body weight to be processed. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're looking for a meat bird, this is not going to work. But if you live in the city, if you're somewhere that you're not capable of having livestock, this is going to be your perfect bird, because you can raise them for eggs. Now, they do lay very small eggs. Their eggs are a little bit larger than a penny. So if you're looking for hard-boiled eggs, this is going to take a lot of work to get these. But if you're just wanting them for scrambled eggs or baking or anything like that, these are going to work for you. They hatch after 16 days of incubation. At 10 days old, they're already fully feathered. By 6 weeks old, they're already laying. And a hen will lay for you once a day, 1 egg a day for the rest of her life. She will live to be between 2 and 4 years old. They are not a large group bird. You can't put a bunch of them together once they hit sexual maturity, unless you have at least a 3 hen to 1 male ratio. Any more than that, and the boys are going to fight. Now, there's not a lot of information on them being broody because apparently this is like not heard of. But my little hen is broody. She's tried to lay on a couple of clutches, and I've figured out that she's not the same broody style as a hen, in the fact of she doesn't just stay on the nest 24/7 and only come off for a few minutes to eat, drink, and poop. She actually will come off for about 2 or 3 hours and then go back on the nest. She started brooding. I thought, you know what? I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to let her try it. And she's been very faithful to those babies. So I'm hoping that she can hatch them out on herself. She's got 5 in her nest. I have 5 in the incubator. Mine will hatch before hers do. But because there's not a lot of information on them being broody, I had to learn the hard way something, and that will be she will get aggressive when it comes to her eggs and her nest. Her mate, they typically stay in duos and trios. You have 1 male and 2 to 3 females. That's how they naturally roll. So she's been together with him, and they do the sweetest thing. Like, if you give him treats, he'll pick them up and he'll make these little chirpy sounds, and he'll feed her. Like, he's super sweet. They've been very lovey-dovey. You can see them always sitting together. But when she got on that nest, something happened. Like, she decided, you know, one day she looked at him and thought, he's got to die. For no reason whatsoever. Like, he wasn't bothering her. He was standing at the water bowl. She came out of that nest and grabbed hold of him and just started ripping feathers out. She took a chunk of meat out of the back of his neck. So I intervened, and so now he's in a separate cage from her. And that's why you hear them calling back and forth. They're literally like 5 feet away from each other, so they're calling back and forth. But he's not distressed. He calls for her, and she'll call back. And then he'll go about his little day. He just, whatever. He doesn't seem distressed that he's alone. You can typically keep males alone. If she was not broody, you can't keep females alone because they will grieve. They have to have other birds. But all in all, these guys are really cute. You can eat the eggs. Yes, it's going to require a lot of eggs to get the equivalent of a chicken egg. No, you cannot really eat them. It's not worth the process and the processing time to get no meat from these birds. So another piece of information is they come in tons and tons and tons of colors. They come in things like tuxedo and pied and wild bird colors. I have cinnamon. I have the cinnamon variety. They come in blue-breasted, red-breasted. If it's a male, they will have 3 features that you can look for. Blue feathers, red feathers, or a bib. And what that means is females will never have blue feathers. Females will never have red feathers, especially around the vent. It doesn't matter what color it is, other than white and some pies. They should have a little bit of red feathering at the vent for a male. The females will be bigger, the males will be smaller, but the males also have something called a bib. It can be 1 or 2 white stripes that goes from his ear all the way around. Looks like a little white bib that goes on him. So that's the way that you can tell the difference. Also, males will do the growling sound, females will not. Another a little bit more evasive way, especially with something so little, is you can actually squeeze them a little bit, and if a foamy substance comes out of the male's vent, then it's a male. If it doesn't come out, then it's not a male, it's a female. The other way to know is if it lays an egg. There's tons of ways of finding out, but these little things, you know, I thought this was such a curse to have these little birds, but now I'm realizing that these guys are actually going to be a blessing. I'm going to be able to continue to breed and raise animals that have a purpose on the homestead. We'll be able to get eggs from them, and I'll be able to sell babies. So it all worked out. So if you guys, that's one of the main comments that most of us YouTubers who are homesteaders get is, you know, I live in the city, I can't have chickens, I can't have this. You know, I might be able to do some container gardens or raised beds, but there's no way I can have animals. here's your solution to some egg issues. I mean, you could actually raise these guys in your house in bird cages. Bird cages are a little bit more iffy because they are tall. These guys even though they're ground dwellers, they can fly. They can fly up to 50 feet in the air. I know a lot of people know about quail hunting or going to hunt for quail with the bob whites. They do the same thing. They will flush if you freak them out, so they will fly. So you have to make sure the top of your cage is not overly hard or it's coated in plastic, something soft, so that they don't boink their head. They can actually knock their little brains out. So as long as the quail habitat needs to be short, large enough that it's 1 square foot per bird, make sure they have plenty of water, wild game bird feed. I'm actually going to build some shelving and put multiple cages, probably 6, 2 for each shelf, and start raising them that way. They are really simple. Now, they are wild birds. You're not going to be able to get it out and love on it a whole lot. My mom is always calling and interrupting. But all in all, these are going to be a great bird for you if you live in a city homestead, if this is something you truly want to do and you do not have the option to have livestock. So there's my piece and take on it. Love you guys. Hope you have a great rest of the week. Make sure you like and subscribe down below. We're on Instagram and Facebook. See you later and have a good day. Enjoy your button quail.